Hello everyone, and welcome to Crime Alley Comics. Tonight we're going to do another comic book artist spotlight. This will be episode number 24, and we're going to focus on Bernie Wrightson. I'm sure that most of you in the community know who Bernie Wrightson is. He's been around for a very long time in the comic artist world, especially if you're into horror comics and Swamp Thing and House of Secrets and things of that nature. Unfortunately, he did pass away a few years ago, so we no longer get any new material from Bernie Wrightson. But so to start off with, his full name is Bernard Albert Wrightson. He was born October 27th of 1948. And he passed in March, or on March 18th rather, of 2017. So we're coming right up on the 3-year mark since he passed away. You will see his name sometimes spelled B-E-R-N-I. Other times it's B-E-R-N-I-E. So he's went by both. So sometimes if you see a signature that's B-E-R-N-I or B-E-R-N-I-E, they are both his signature because he did it both ways. He was an American artist known for co-creating the Swamp Thing. His adaptation of the novel Frankenstein illustration work, and for his other horror comics and illustrations which feature his trademark intricate pen and brushwork. So, as you'll notice, as I show you the books, he did a lot of covers that are more of a painting than they are a drawing. Let's see. Let me get to the next page here. So, he was born October 27, 1948 in Dundalk, Maryland. Never heard of that place, but he received training in art from watching John Nagy on television, reading comics, particularly those of EC, as well as through a correspondence course from the famous artist school. His article influences were Frank Frazetta, Al Williamson, Al Dorn, Graham Ingalls, Jack Davis, and Howard Pyle. He published a piece of fan art containing a headstone bearing the inscription Bernie Wrightson, December 15th, 1965, on page 33 of Warren Publishing's Creepy number 9. Cover date June 1966. In 1966, Wrightson began working for the Baltimore Sun newspaper as an illustrator. The following year, after meeting artist Frank Frazetta at a comic book convention in New York City, he was inspired to produce his own stories. In 1968, he showed copies of his sequential art to DC Comics editor Dick Giordano, and was given a story in 1968. So, and it was a freelance assignment. Wrightson began spelling his name B-E-R-N-I in his professional work to distinguish himself from an Olympic diver named Bernie Wrightson as well, but later restored the final E to his name. In 1968, he drew his first professional comic book story, The Man Who Murdered Himself, which appeared in the House of Mysteries number 179, March and April of 1969. He continued to work on a variety of mystery and anthology titles for both DC, and a few years later, its principal rival, Marvel Comics. It was for Marvel's Chamber of Darkness and Tower of Shadows titles where he was first encountered to slightly simplify his intricate pen and ink drawings, and where his lush brushwork, a hallmark of his comics ink in the 1970s, was first evidenced. Like many artists in the 1970s and 1980s, Wrightson moved to New York in hopes of finding work with comic publishers such as DC Comics and Marvel Comics. At one point, Wrightson lived in the same Queens apartment building as artist Alan Milgrom, Howard Chaykin, and Walter Simonson. Simonson recalls. We'd get together at 3 a.m. They'd come up and we'd have popcorn and sit around and talk about whatever a 26, 27, and 20-year-old guys talk about. Our art, TV, you name it. I pretty much knew at the time these are the good old days. So now let's talk about Swamp Thing, which Bernie Wrightson was co-creator of. With writer Lynn Wayne, Wrightson co-created the Muck. Wrightson co-created the Muck creature Swamp Thing in House of Secrets number 92, July of 1971. In a standalone horror story set in the Victorian era. Wayne later recounted how Wrightson became involved with the story. Bernie Wrightson had just broken up with his girlfriend, and we were sitting in my car just talking about life, all the important things to do when you're 19 and 20 years old. And I said, you know, I just wrote a story that actually kind of feels like the way you feel now. I told him about Swamp Thing, and he said, I gotta draw that. In the summer of 1972, he published Bad Time Stories, not bedtime stories, a horror science fiction comic anthology featuring his own scripts and artwork from the period of 1970 to 1971. Each story being drawn in a different medium: ink wash, tonal pencil drawings, douchette paper, and screen tones, along with traditional pen and ink and brushwork. In the fall of 1972, the Swamp Thing returned in his own series, set in the contemporary world and the general DC continuity. Wrightson drew the first 10 issues of the series. Abigail Arcane, a major supporting character in the Swamp Thing mythos, was introduced in issue number 3, February-March of 1973. Wrightson had originally been asked by DC to handle the art for its rival of The Shadow, but he left the project early on when he realized he could not produce the necessary minimum number of pages on time, along with his work on Swamp Thing. Michael Kaluta illustrated the series, but Wrightson did contribute much to the third issue in both pencils and inks, as well as inking the splash page of issue number 4. Okay, in January of 1974, he left DC to work at Warren Publishing, for whose black and white horror comics magazines he produced a series of original work as well as short story adaptations. As with Bad Time Stories, Wrightson experimented with different media in these black and white tales, Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat featured intricate pen and ink work, which stood in direct contrast with his brush-dominated Swamp Thing. Jennifer, scripted by Bruce Jones, was atmospherically rendered with gray markers. The Pepper Lake monster was a synthesis of brush and pen and ink, whereas H.P. Lovecraft's Cool Air was a foray into duotone paper. Nightfall was an exercise in ink wash. Clarice was also drawn in pen, brush, and ink, and with ink wash. In 1975, Wrightson joined the fellow artist Jeffrey Catherine Jones, Michael Kaluta, and Barry Windsor Smith to form the Studio, a shared loft in Manhattan where the group would pursue creative products outside the constraints of comic book commercialism. Though he continued to produce sequential art, Wrightson at this time began producing artwork for numerous posters, prints, calendars, and even a highly detailed coloring book. He also drew sporadic comics stories and single illustrations for National Lampoon's magazine from 1973 to 1983. Wow, he's done a lot of stuff. Wrightson spent 7 years drawing approximately 50 detailed pen and ink illustrations for a company, AC Company, an edition of Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein. Okay. The Captain Stern segment of the animated film Heavy Metal is based on a character created by Wrightson, first appearing in the June 1980 issue of Heavy Metal magazine. The Freak Show graphic novel, written by Bruce Jones and illustrated via pen, brush, ink, and watercolors, was by Wrightson, and that was published in Spain in 1982 and serialized in Heavy Metal magazine in the early 1980s. 1983, Bernie Wrightson illustrated the comic book adaptation of the Stephen King penned horror film Creepshow. This led to several other collaborations with King, including illustrations for the novella Cycle of the Werewolf, the restored edition of King's apocalyptic horror epic. And that's kind of interesting. My wife is a Stephen King collector, and so she has, she don't have quite 100 of his books yet. I think she's in the 70-ish range. But one of the books she does not have is this werewolf book. What did I just say it was called? Now I don't see it. Oh, Cycle of the Werewolf. And so I did look Cycle of the Werewolf up, and on the cover of it, it actually gives credit to, it says illustrations by Bernie Wrightson at the bottom of the book. And so we were, that's a very hard book to get, by the way, especially the first printing. So unfortunately, I don't have that book to show you, but I'm looking for that for my wife now. So, okay, where was I? So we were talking about Stephen King. Oh, okay. And we said the restored edition of King's apocalyptic horror epic, The Stand, and Wolves of the Calla, The fifth illustration of King's Dark Tower series is another one that he did. He would later illustrate the cover for TV Guide magazine's April 26th and May 2nd, 1997 issues, illustrating the TV miniseries of King's The Shining. During production of the 1984 film Ghostbusters, Wrightson was among the artists hired by associate producers Michael Gross to provide concept art envisioning the ghosts and other psychic phenomena encountered by the film characters. The artwork he contributed included images of the escapee from Ghostbusters' electrically powered ghost storage facility, which run amok after the facility's electricity was turned off. Keep hitting my microphone. Move over there. Jim Starlin and Wrightson produced Heroes for Hope, a 1985 one-shot designed to raise money for African famine relief and recovery. Published in the form of a comic jam, the book featured an all-star lineup of comic creators as well as a few notable authors from outside the comic book industry, such as Stephen King, George R.R. Martin, Harlan Ellison, and Edward Bryant. In 1986, Wrightson and writer Susan Putney collaborated on the Spider-Man Hooky graphic novel. That same year saw Wrightson and Starlin produce a second benefit comic, Heroes Against Hunger, featuring Superman and Batman, which was published by DC Comics like the earlier Marvel project. Featured many let me back up. Like the earlier Marvel project, it featured many top comic creators. Starlin and Wrightson collaborated on two miniseries in 1988, The Weird and Batman the Cult, as well as Marvel graphic novel number 29 featuring the Hulk and the Thing for Marvel. Oh, wow. Just so much information. He has illustrated cards for Last Unicorn Games, collectible card game Heresy Kingdom Come, and has contributed album covers for a number of bands, including Meatloaf. Wrightson did production design for the characters the Reavers in 2005, the film Serenity. In 2012, Wrightson collaborated with Steve Niles on Frankenstein Alive Alive, published by IDW Publishing, for which he won a National Cartoonist Society Award. So yeah, a lot of information out there about Bernie Wrightson. Of course, he had been in this field since 1966 up until the mid-2000s, or the mid-2010s. Because I don't have any of his earliest or of his latest work, but I do have a few things to show you from his older work. I'm just looking now to see if there's anything in here. See, there's something from 2003, Batman Nevermore, covers number 1 through 5. He done that in 2003. Oh, 2010, Hidden Treasures, or Batman Hidden Treasures number 1. See if there's anything newer than that. Because I was thinking he'd done some other stuff pretty close, you know, not too many years before he passed away. I'm not seeing anything on here. Frankenstein Alive Alive, that was in 2012 through 2014. That looks like it's probably one of the last things he worked on. I'm not seeing anything newer than that. So that would have been, 3 years before he passed away. All right, that's the information I have on Bernie Wrightson. Now I'll show you a few books. So, first up is The House of Secrets, number 106. Get the glare off of it so you can make it out. And I'll try to get it a little closer so you can get a better look at his art style. Really love his covers that are, mostly, well, since he done such a combination of inks and painting and so on, he has some unique looking covers. This is one of my favorite here. This is House of Secrets number 139. I love the way he done the jack-o'-lanterns and the faces of the people. Kind of creepy. Kind of creepy. Good stuff, good stuff. And this is another one. I do have some Swamp Thing. So, the original Swamp Thing Saga. And this is actually a wraparound cover, but I didn't take it out of the package. But as you can see, it's got Frankenstein and Swamp Thing fighting there. And I think on the back of this cover, I think he's got like a werewolf on a black background or something. I know on the Stephen King book, The Cycle of the Werewolf, he does the illustrations in the book, and he also does the cover. And so he's got this werewolf coming out like out of the woods or something. But basically all you see is his head and maybe a little bit of his body. But it's a really neat. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to have to get that for myself. And I don't think she agreed with that too much. So she said, no, that'll be mine. Okay, so the next one up is, well, let's do this other Swamp Thing. This is Roots of the Swamp Thing, part 5 of 5. By Lynn Wayne and Bernie Wrightson. And this is sort of a thick book. It's a little thicker than normal. I don't know how many pages it is, but it is thicker than a normal comic book. This one here is The Weird, number 1. And so this is a little bit of his Batman work. So you've got, Batman over here. You've got Martian Manhunter there. Very cool cover. Very cool cover. I forgot to pull Batman number 320 because that's also a Bernie Wrightson cover, and I forgot to pull it up. But anyway, here's the last one I have, and I think this is probably pretty familiar to everyone. House of Secrets number 92. It is 92, right? Yeah, 92. Very, very beautiful cover. I absolutely love this. And then, of course, you've got Swamp Thing in the background there. And this is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. But this is a facsimile cover. This is not the real McCoy, unfortunately. But anyway, still I have this, so I'm happy about that. And then down here at the bottom, you can see where it says Wrightson 71. Yeah. Doesn't say Bernie Wrightson, but it says Wrightson. On the thumbnail for this video, you'll see his signature down the center of the picture. So, and it looks very similar to that, but it actually has his full name. All right. That's all I have for Bernie Wrightson. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will continue doing this throughout the year. This is episode 24. I've been doing it for 24 weeks already, and I'm really enjoying doing this series. And you know, not just not just to benefit you guys. It's benefiting me as well because I'm learning more about artists, some of the artists that I wasn't real familiar with. I'm familiar with Bernie Wrightson, but I didn't know everything that he had done. I knew about him being involved with Swamp Thing and being co-creator and so on, but I've really not seen a lot of his other work, or I didn't know a lot of other things that he had worked on. So this kind of stuff helps me out too, just in my own collecting. What am I trying to say? Just in my own experience, stuff that I want to collect, because you know I know that I have other Bernie Wrightson artwork or other covers and so on, but I didn't necessarily know what they were. So you know, now I'm finding out more about what he did, and you know, the other things that I could actually look for if I wanted to buy more Bernie Wrightson artwork. So yeah, so I hope you guys are enjoying this this series, and I noticed not the last, not episode 23, but episode 22, I think I haven't received any comments on that video at all. So maybe there's just not that many people that like Andy Kubert. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, but please leave feedback. Leave me some comments. Let me know, other things, other artists that you would like to see. I have a list of about 65 artists, and I've got through 24 of them so far. But I'm always adding names to it. I just added one. Cat Staggs, I think, is one that Daryl from Simply Incredible podcast, he was asking me if I had considered doing her, and I hadn't considered it until he mentioned her, because I really didn't know who she was. so that one's going to be coming up pretty soon, I think. I want to do one on her. She's got some interesting artwork. And like I said, I see a lot of things that I like, but I don't necessarily know much about the people who are doing the artwork, or the stories for that matter, because there's a lot of writers out there that I don't know their work that well, so because I haven't read many of their stories, and especially the up and coming, the new writers and artists that are coming out now. Some of these guys haven't been around, but maybe 6-8 years, and they're getting really popular now. So yeah, I mean, it's a learning process for me, and also I like sharing that information with you guys, because I'm sure some of you are looking for those same kinds of information. So, and that's why I do it, because I like to share with the community and give back to you guys. So, and I love to get your feedback and your comments. So if you guys enjoyed this, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate you subscribing, and click the bell so you get notified whenever I make a video. And with that, I think I'm done. There will be more. I think at this point I'm just going to start doing videos, just pulling books out of the box, because for one thing, I don't have a lot of bags and boards left, and I'm going to have to get those ordered. So I think I'm probably just going to show you how they are in the raw, before I re-bag and board them. Some of them are not bagged and boarded at all. Some of them, well, there's very few of them that have a bag and a board from this 900 plus collection that I bought. So I may just start yanking them out of the box and just saying, here they are, here's what I got. Because I probably have, I don't know, another 500 of them to show you, or better. So and I don't want to bore you to death, so I may just kind of quickly go through and say, "Oh, this got these, got this, got this," but we'll see how that turns out. And I'll probably get another. I guess part 6 will be the next one. Get that up here in the next day or two. So anyway, thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you for all your support. I hope these videos are doing the community some good. I'm hoping that I'm helping you guys to, pick up information that you've been wanting to know and maybe didn't have time to research it or whatever. But anyway, it's a lot of fun and I really enjoy doing this. And so just remember too that I will be trying to do some live streaming here before too awful long. I still have to work on that a little bit, and I think I'm just going to have to take my bit rate and stuff down to a point that I would think it wouldn't even work, but maybe it will. So anyway, that's what's coming, and that's all I have for tonight. So once again, thank you very much for stopping by, and have a great week. It's almost half over. That's great. So we will see you all next video.